I know before the episode, one of the first things that you asked me about was the Shintaro Fujinami signing to the Oakland Athletics. I want to know
Yep.
where you stand on this because it's really interesting. Like you had the big names in Kodai Senga and Masataka Yoshida get posted, but I didn't really hear anything about him being posted.
I I mean, so I really didn't know a lot about him coming into the offseason. I really didn't know who he was. He wasn't talked about a lot. And it was surprising that a Japanese player, normally when a Japanese player comes into the league, they go to kind of a win now contending type of team, and he decides to go to the Oakland Athletics. So there had to have been something wrong. Like there had to have been a reason why he went to the Oakland Athletics and wasn't really talked about a lot going into the offseason, right? And Brad and I were talking about it, and he's kind of a low floor, high ceiling type of player overall. Like when you look at him, he's very raw, has a lot of potential, but needs to work out those kinks. And apparently, he thinks Oakland's the place for that to work out.
Yeah, especially like if you're looking to just get into the show and find a team that's going to work on you, a team that's rebuilding is the perfect place to do that. And I
Yep.
don't think a team that's going to be contending is going to go outright and look for someone whose like biggest issue is having quote sporadic control. He was in the same draft class as Shohei Ohtani, and he was heralded on the same platform at the time. But that sporadic control, it's hindered his career progress. So if you get to a major league team who can help you with this control issue, you can kind of tailor that to fit the major league level. A team like the Athletics can also trade him at the trade deadline to a contender. So it fits all parties where he gets to go to a postseason competing roster and the Athletics get prospects in return for only $3.5 million.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty cheap deal, and I think it's not really it's a risky move, but there's not really a lot that you're throwing on the line. You're throwing 3.25 million on the line, and the chance of getting prospects or just having him fizzle out and going out into free agency for really nothing.
Yeah. And so just like a little profile on him. So he's 6'6" right-hander. And as we know, like taller pitchers normally work a little bit more on the vertical plane. He has grown a ton in velocity over the past couple of seasons, sitting in the upper 90s, touching 100 a couple times last season. He's got a low 90 split finger fastball, which is said to be his best strikeout pitch. I'm interested to see that because we've seen, again, I'm going to compare him to Shohei Ohtani because that's who is in his draft class. We've seen that
Yeah.
how disgusting that splitter's been. So I'm interested to see how the Athletics are going to turn that around. He's said to have a sharp slider, which is kind of it's here and there. So I'm really interested to see if he can tap into that in the major league level and become effective for Oakland because he does have a chance to shine there. Um, One thing that you worry about is that he was a star his first couple seasons in Japan, but over the past 3, 4 seasons, he spent time in both their minor leagues and major leagues. So on Baseball Reference, they have a combined version of his stats from 2022. But if you just pull his major league Japan, it's the Japan Central League. He threw 66 and a two and 2/3 innings in 2022, and it was 10 starts and 6 relief appearances. So it makes me think that one of those was before he went down, and one of those was after he came back up, to the tune of a 3.38 ERA. But he did have his career best strikeouts per walk, which the strikeout numbers were down, but so were the walk numbers. So maybe that's something we see in the major leagues.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a name you're going to want to keep an eye on throughout the season. We'll track his progress and see how he's doing, and if he can make that real jump from this kind of it feel like a B list type of star, and if he can make it up into that A list type of player.
Yeah, and he's obviously going to have the market for it too, because like we always, I feel like whether we admit it or not, as soon as someone comes overseas from Japan, we're always watching their first couple outings starts. Like Kodai Senga, when he has his first couple starts, I'm gonna have that on my TV.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna be interested to see what he does. I think they said that they're gonna put him into the starting rotation, which would make sense because it's not a real,
Yeah.
there's not much depth there. But I mean, there's no depth anywhere on the A's.
Yeah.
Um, but there is again, there's a spot for him to succeed, and Oakland's a potential team that could capitalize on that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think it's a win-win for both players, and that's really what you want to look at for going out and signing this type of player.